Yeah, all better. Brilliant. Okay, now I know what to do. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, I'm gonna start again then. When I upload this, I can cut it in YouTube, and so I can cut it so that it starts at this point. So you won't have to sit through me talking into no microphone, apparently. So thank you very much for joining me today, guys, and for pointing out that my audio wasn't working. That would have been really frustrating if I'd done that for half an hour and then realised that it wasn't, anyway, so thank you very much for that. I was just saying before I turned my mic on that I've got my popcorn now, and I've also, since it's Friday, poured myself a whiskey, and would enjoy if you guys join me in, you don't have to drink, but bring your popcorn to this. I was just saying I don't want to rush through any facts, so these live streams are really about not leaving any details, really trying to cover everything that I heard about in the week, not cherry picking, and just generally chatting about how much I like Cineworld, and yeah, creating an outlet for all the information and time I spend learning about this one stock. I also think what I was saying before I turned my mic on, was that it's interesting how when I started this live stream, and this is the 4th live stream now, I didn't think that we'd get so much information every week. And it's funny how just by having this pressure to create a stream once a week, it has made me dig for so much more information than I otherwise normally would on a regular basis. And it's amazing that you generally do seem to find little nuggets each time that are really useful to helping you understand how the business is operating. This week, obviously, is no exception. We've got things like Cineplex putting in an offer, and we are going to discuss what I think that means. And also, we've got Cineworld's earnings, which, if you watched last week's episode, you'll know we already know a lot about Cineworld's earnings during this time period. And there's links in the description of these videos that will take you to the Cineworld Investor Relations page. And I will tell you what page of those documents to go to find their monthly earnings. But what I wanted to talk about in this video as well, the first thing I wanted to touch on, it's not something that would have come up much this week at the top of Cineworld, but I'm seeing a lot of CEOs of companies like Warner Brothers Discovery and Disney talking a lot more about how important cinema is. And it's getting really positive to see, because we've had 2 years of them talking. All they talked about was how important streaming services were and how important it was to get them off the ground. But streaming services do not bring in that much margin. The margins are very, very tight on earnings of streaming. And if you look at the top watched things on streaming services, they're all things like The Big Bang Theory and stuff like that. So what the revenue that comes from streaming wants content. What people are demanding for when they are on streaming platforms, 99% of the time, they are looking for content. The issue is people will base their purchase of a streaming platform on what blockbusters are on there also. And they will occasionally move a platform just because of one film, or more likely they will buy an additional platform just to watch one film, and then months later they will have a debate about which platform they continue on holding. So having big blockbuster films is really crucially important. Having a good amount of them is also crucially important, but it's really hard to justify the cost of the production of these big blockbuster films without cinema, a place where you get an incredible margin. So someone pays an extra 15 quid just to watch one film, and you get a lion's share of that admission. So cinema is crucially important to getting the revenue for from box office to justify the big box office hits, and then you get to put them on your streaming platform later. And that's why, and I'm hearing a lot about this because I follow, I've got other positions in companies like Warner Brothers Discovery, another bag holding position you could say, although I take pleasure in holding businesses that I'm confident will grow and be relevant in the future and are being undervalued. And I think Warner Brothers, compared to Netflix and compared to Disney, are horrendously undervalued. I mean, if you go take some time to look at their film productions that they have a hand in, everything that they own, and they're also so just on what they already have, their revenues that they have and their assets, they're incredibly valuable. But then you just look at the CEOs, the directors, the people that are now running it, the management team is better than it's ever been, and they have a really good mission, which is bringing a few enormous packages of films together to create their own version of Netflix, but one that values cinema. So theatrical release are baked into it. They don't have to spend a whole ton creating tons of content. Anyway, don't want to talk too much about my Warner Brothers Discovery position. That was just, it's exciting to see. I am seeing more comments come from them and even Disney and stuff like that about how important cinema is, and it really is to their revenues. It's important to them. It's not important to society. Society doesn't need cinema. We like going to it. We'd like a break from our phones, we like an alternative type of evening, and in the winter we like doing something out that isn't getting a meal, that is moderately affordable and warm. So yeah, cinema is incredibly relevant and it will continue to be in the future. Okay, so someone on Reddit posted this. I thought it was interesting. This is just a highlight from their earnings on their financial report. Now, because I've been at work all day, I had to get up at 6 a.m. today, and I mean, that's actually a lie-in for me, but I was up until 1 a.m. last night because it's my brother's girlfriend's 30th, so I've had 5 hours sleep and then had to go straight to work. I had a really crazy day at work, and so I haven't had a chance to look at the earnings yet, but I've got them up here. I'm going to show you where to find them on the Cineworld website, and then we're going to go through the earnings together. So I hope you enjoy that. But here's a bit of a highlight of their adjusted EBITDA and all of that. You could just go to Yahoo Finance and you can see the H2 earnings compared to last year's earnings, and you can do cash flow models and all of this stuff. But actually, what I'm going to need to do, take some time on, is create a basically an example of how much cash we can expect them to make in the future, and then show you how different types of share dilution will affect that free cash flow. So that is something that I plan to do in the future. I just hadn't gotten around to doing it in great detail in time for this episode. So yes, Cineplex Inc. provides an update on its claims against Cineworld Group. So a chap on Reddit, thank you so much for this, shared this post. Now I'm going to take this with a big grain of salt because you didn't place your source. So I really appreciate it when people provide links to where they got information rather than just, it looks like you've copied and pasted this from potentially an email that you got from Cineplex from being signed up to them. So I can understand if it was an email, but yeah, always appreciate it if you place a source to your information so that I can read it from there directly, not on Reddit. But basically it's a long post, but basically Cineplex requested relief from Cineworld during Cineworld's bankruptcy process. So I think they're trying to claim some of the 1.9 billion in cash, well, technically 500 million in cash that they got as part of the bankruptcy filing, and the cinema court, the bankruptcy court, said no to this. And Cineplex were just giving it a try. I think basically there's a legal precedent for it, so they were giving it a try, and the judge was just like, no, you're still being appealed by Cineworld, this isn't going to happen. But the judge also seemed to say that he's not going to hold this against them if they try and request for this in the future. He's just telling them no for the time being. So Cineplex might try and get some of that 500 million again in the future, but for the time being, Cineplex are not getting anything. There's not a lot to talk about with the Cineplex thing, by the way, guys. Like, I didn't go into it in great detail, but I couldn't find anything they're just obviously clearly trying to see if there's an opportunity to acquire ownership of Cineworld during this bankruptcy process. It's their right to try that, but I think they have a big challenge if that's there. I think, if anything, they're trying to gather ammunition to use against Cineworld in settlement negotiations. So if, they've got a potential settlement ahead of them where Cineworld potentially look like they're going to win, or their appeal. And so Cineplex and Cineworld are both looking for ways to outmaneuver one another. But I do hope that one day a settlement with Cineworld and Cineplex occurs, and ideally, if possible, Cineworld again owning Cineplex, I think, would make the most sense. It's just that at this time, it's not a sensible thing to be for Cineworld. Well, at the time of Cineworld acquiring Cineplex, it wasn't a sensible time to be buying them. Okay, so let's go see if there's any more. No, there's no more there. So let's go to the results and presentations. So this is Cineworld Investor Relations page, and you can, I will just make it so it's easier to see. There it is. Cineworld.com and / oh, this is just / PSE. Is that going to take me? And then I go to investors. So and then once you're on the Cineworld Investor Relations page, tell you what, just going to squeeze that around and move that a little bit. You go to, so you're on the investors page. I need to make this a little bit wider because I just want to make sure that these bits pop up. Why is that being weird? I'm going to move Cineworld presentation above my video capture. As you can see, I'm still not beautifully slick at doing this. And so we go to shareholder. So you got all this. You go to investors, key facts, share price, results, reports, and presentations. Click on there. You got your annual report and accounts 2021, preliminary results 17th of March, preliminary results 17th of March. So it looks like their filing has not been published on their site. Sorry guys. So if anyone knows the link to the London Stock Exchange page where I can get access to their H2 earnings, we could just try Yahoo Finance and see if it's on there yet. I hate looking at the earnings on Yahoo Finance, by the way, because it's just I always have so many questions. I always end up having to go into the investor relations page anyway. So, oh yeah, Cinema, Cineworld. Let's go. Also, I saw comments on Reddit today on the live stream. So, one of you said that as the earnings obviously had no benefit on the share price today, what do you see being the real turning point? That, I think, is an interesting question, but I do think that it has, any benefit that it had has seemed to have dissipated, but we did see a little bit of a spike today. What's amazing, check this out, look how much, so you had here, these bars are more interesting. So the share price thing is interesting. I'm not a technicals person, by the way, but what I always find more interesting is these bars here. These green and red bars are, so the color is a bit irrelevant. I change the color of them sometimes, but these are how much money of shares is being traded. So look at this. On these days, very little numbers of shares are being traded, and just recently on the build up towards this earnings release, quite a lot of shares are being traded. So this is quite interesting. Also, what I was learning about today that you guys might find interesting is some banks set it up so that they are constantly buying and selling shares off themselves on an exchange. This is so that they can keep the price at a certain level on the computers. So they put a set of orders in and a set of buys in, and they're constantly just trading the shares amongst themselves so they can keep it at a certain level. And potentially with Cineworld, they're just not doing that. They're not trying to maintain any form of price, or perhaps it's potentially beneficial for the equity holders of Cineworld to not be doing that. Either way, there's an incredible amount of volatility, incredible amount of trading going on about the stocks in the lead up to this. I guess this is just day traders like to get involved when earnings releases are on their way. We also had this letter from Cineworld. This is a letter that they gave to accompany their earnings release. So you've got Cineworld Group, a leading cinema operator in 10 countries, including United States and the United Kingdom. Basically, they love saying these facts. I don't know of a Cineworld document where they don't bring up how many sites they have and how many screens they have and how many countries they have. And then anyways, this is all the stuff that we've gone over before. But then there's a few interesting bits. The financial summary, 6-month period ending 30th June. Again, if you've got my other videos, we go over this. We have access to this information. It's interesting to read from them. At the same time, cash burn of 144 million, H1 2021, 271 million, reflects the slower than expected recovery of H1 2022. And we all know this. And so we go over these group adjusted EBITDA, 364, 2 million. I think one of the things that I also have noticed about it is I'm someone that likes to hold very few stocks. I have probably around 10 to 15, which is more than I would like to be holding, because I like to do this amount of research when owning a stock and share, and I like to be reading the reports weekly as they come out, and then I like to feel a sense of being part of that business, which even if you're holding a very small amount of shares, I think is a good thing to be doing, because if you don't like the language that your business is speaking, if it's making you angry or annoyed with what they're saying all the time, this is a great time to think differently about that position. So you're not just looking at it just like you work out whether the business is the right price from you at the beginning, but then you are staying for reading the reports and becoming part of that company. Okay, so Chapter 11 cases. This is interesting to me. The Chapter 11 cases are a court-supervised process that will provide a forum for efficient reorganisation of the group's business and balance sheet. During restructuring process, the group expects to operate its global business and cinemas as usual without interruption. The group's Chapter 11 companies will remain in possession and control of their assets. Existing management and the board of directors will stay in control of the business. Actually, that's so important. Existing management and the board of directors will stay in control of the business. Now, if the debtors are in possession of the business, they can do whatever they want with it, right? The board of directors, Mookie, owns 20% of the business. The board of directors are allowing someone that owns 20% of the shares to remain as the manager and director of the business. So this should tell you a bit about the relationship the company has with the debtors have with the creditors, the relationship Mookie has with the people that lent him money to purchase Regal. The group's Chapter 11 companies intend to pay vendors and suppliers in full and on normal terms for valid amounts relating to the goods and services received during the Chapter 11 cases. The group's Chapter 11 companies intend to pay vendors and suppliers in full and on normal terms. Brilliant. So that's just saying Cineworld are operating normally, and this is something on most Chapter 11 cases in this position. This is kind of a weird thing for a company to be saying, right? Look how short this is. Okay, the group expects employees. There's no mention of mass shutdowns, selling off parts of the business. So even with Hertz, they were talking about selling cars and stuff like this until retail investors started buying up tons of shares. Hertz just wasn't working as a business. Cineworld clearly is, and they aren't fearful about their cinemas and how they're operating. They don't have a bunch of really crap cinemas that need updating. They are really good at reinvesting into their cinemas, and their cinemas are profitable, just not in COVID. So it's good to see this. This is just them, what their promises are. If there was real change needed in the business, right, that would be present here. They would be talking about it. They would be talking about what they'd be trying to reassure us. Oh, we're going to trim down. We're going to reduce how many employees we have. We're going to reduce how many sites we have. They're not really talking about that. There has been occasional mention of closing some sites, but it's not like, oh, there's an endemic issue with how much retail we have and stuff like that. And if it was incompetence doing that, like, it's easy to go, well, maybe they're really in denial and stuff like that. Well, then the creditors would likely see them as people in denial that don't know how to manage their business. They certainly wouldn't be leaving them in charge of the business right now as it's operating. Existing management and the board of directors will stay in control of the business. Existing management. So normally what would happen in the case of Hertz, the CEO stepped down the second it filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and someone else stepped in. So yes, they would usually replace the existing management, which hasn't happened in this case. Cineplex Incorporated appeal process remains ongoing, consistent with the position taken at December 31st, 2021. No liability has been recognised at the 30th of June 2022 in respect of the original judgment. On 9th of September 2022, Cineplex filed a motion for emergency relief from the automatic stay in connection with the company's Chapter 11 cases in order to proceed with the appeal process relating to Cineplex litigation. The company filed an objection to Cineplex motion 22nd of September 2022. That is in relation to this post here, I believe, and basically the judge said that Cineplex aren't getting any money at this time. A hearing before the United States Bankruptcy Court, the Southern District of Texas, took place on 28th of September 2022 to consider Cineplex motion. The court denied the motion and ruled to uphold the automatic stay in connection with Chapter 11 cases, and as a result, the company expects its appeal process relating to the Cineplex litigation to remain and hold. Any amounts owed to Cineplex will rank alongside the company's unsecured claims and will be determined as part of the Chapter 11 cases. So I'd need to read that probably about 3 times to fully take it in, but it's just sort of really long lawyer talk for the Cineplex cases ongoing. And there's a lot of work to do to decide who's right and who's wrong. So Q3 admissions have been below expectations. So this is the outlook. Okay, so we are seeing in the financials, H1 is Q1, Q2. They're saying that right now the admissions have been below expectations. Q4 is anticipated to be stronger, supported by the scheduled release of Black Adam, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, Avatar, and The Way of the Water. I think I literally wrote a post with these exact words in it, they just copied and pasted me. And other blockbuster films. Yes. This. So someone commented on YouTube, on Reddit, are the earnings, as the earnings obviously have no benefit to the price today, I presume you'll say when a deal is struck with Cineplex, and if so, when do I think the real turning point will be? The reason I like Cineworld is because their reports are spot on, and this outlook here, it's simple as hell, like 3 points, but that's it. Q4, that's when we'll know. Cineworld will go through an enormous turnaround in this point, at which point by December Cineworld will be worth 0, or I hate price predictions, but let's assume if it's 100% dilution, Cineworld will probably be minimum 10p to 50p if it's 100% dilution. If it's I don't know if it's going to be something crazy like 1,000% dilution and Mookie just gets left open with 2%. Even in the event of 1,000% dilution, I think we'd still be looking at 5 to 10p share price in December, just through virtue of certainty, not worrying about how we're going to pay debtors. So that is my price projections. But price projections, I just want to make clear, are wank. They are absolutely useless. People, it really attracts viewers to do price projections all the time. And the Motley Fool does price projections. Literally, sometimes they post articles projecting the price will go down and projecting the price will go up the same day. I've seen that happen about Cineworld stock. And so, yes, I've just given you a price projection, but take it with a heavy grain of salt, guys. So that's at least I estimate contingencies for these price projections. Oh, brilliant. So actually, we do have the information in this email here. We've got admissions, 82 million. And so reported results versus 2021, 487% higher. Revenue is 400% higher. I would prefer that they did this in relation to 2019. So I'll have to do that myself later on. Loss before tax, 500. When things are in brackets, that's negative. So yeah, that's quite a big loss. And loss. So actually, we're seeing so we're seeing a smaller loss in 2022 versus 2021. That is to be expected. And we're seeing a much smaller loss after tax in 2022 versus 2021. And basic earnings per share are negative 20p this year. And that would also make sense. So we're negative 37p a year ago, now they're negative 21p. And earnings per share, this is what's going to change after the earnings, after the dilution, is basically if they diluted the shares this year, then we'd have all made a smaller loss, technically. So, but in the future, it will mean that if Cineworld gets to a point where it's profitable, we'll all made smaller profits. But we still have made profits, and we'll be able to determine by the earnings per share how valuable our remaining shares are. And from where the price is right now, our shares will will likely be worth more. And adjusted loss after tax, and yeah, so it's all losses. So there's not really a lot that we can infer from this, and this is why the share price hasn't moved that much today. Chair of Cineworld Group has said, despite the gradual easing of COVID restrictions, so this is just going to be more Chapter 11 stuff. Mookie, the boy, the legend, Chief Executive Officer of Cineworld. I'm going to have some more popcorn. And then, actually, I'm going to have a sip of whiskey. I haven't had a sip of anything to drink during this. Please jump in with questions in the comment section if you have any. And also, hit that like and subscribe button if you're enjoying this. And also, you have to be a subscriber to comment. So that's enough plugging. Okay. This has been a challenging period for Cine. Mookie's had to write so many of these. This has been a challenging period. I wonder if he just sometimes sits down for a day and just writes out about 10 of them so that some assistant can just add them to documents. And yeah, COVID pandemic, including Top Gun, Maverick, Doctor Strange. I don't think there's going to be much more information in this document, guys. I have read it through once, but I didn't do what I normally do, which is screenshot and put them into the presentation. The first half of 22 was clearly impacted during COVID-19. Also, there was issues with the fact that Jurassic World Domination was just an awful film that actually almost put me off going back to the cinema for a little while. And I love Jurassic Park films. To continue making Cineworld the best place to watch a movie. It is a great place to watch a movie, granted. And Financial Review, group admissions, what's this about? 6 months to 6 months. So, this is the 6 months to June to the 6 months to June in 2021. And the 6 months to June Whoa. We're profitable. Whoa. That's cool. So the 6 months to June were profitable. Thank you, Top Gun Maverick. It was just H1 that was unprofitable. And clearly August was awful. And then you got 6 months to 6 months. 6 months to June 2022. Wasn't that 6 months to June? Is this the same information? The results below show the group's performance in the United States. The results below here, that is worldwide. And this is United States. This here is UK and Ireland. So United States made 50 million. UK and Ireland made 15 million. This will also be very useful with the pound being as bad as it is, that dollar cash. And then you got here, you got the rest of the world making 16 million. So this, the whole rest of the world made just a little bit more than the United Kingdom. United Kingdom and the rest of the world combined. As always, similar relations. But they, 6 months to June, all of them were profitable. And so that's just the power of Top Gun Maverick. That is incredible. The power of making an actually decent film. Right, I'm going to go through some of these other questions. Should holders be worried about the possible dilution that's coming? Yes. You should be concerned, and when the second we know what the dilution is, we should do formulas. We should work out what our shares are worth. And we should then make a decision. I think after the dilution, they're not going to try and do anything stupid. No one's trying, yes, there are people out there trying to make sure that the shares are diluted as possible. The debtors in possession do have some incentive to make sure that shares are diluted as much as possible, but also they do have a tiny bit of incentive to make sure that the business they then end up owning is run well. And I think most people want Cineworld with Mookie leading it. So given that Mookie owns 20% stake, dilution is seen currently as the predominant way to reduce the debt of Cineworld. Most people want to do the dilution. I think Mookie is trying to delay the dilution until after Black Adam and Black Panther and after Avatar, and then do the dilution from that point. And that will also help. It'll also help them pay off the debt. That's pure speculation. Yes, you should be worried about dilution, but it's the same way that you should be worried if you're an Apple holder. You should be worried about the next iPhone. And if you are a Google holder, you should be worried about advertising and the future of that on the platform. What we are going to have to continually do research on, and it's not very much work, right, compared to what Mookie has to do to make Cineworld profitable and to contain ownership, we have to do very little work. All we got to do is wait until the announcement on dilution comes out, and then we have to do, the formulas are so simple. I'll walk you through it. The second we know what the dilution is, I can show you the impact it would have if we had the same amount of shares in 2019. That's the formula I'm going to run. So, because we know there are going to be blockbusters in the future. And so when the second that we had dilution, we'll work out what our shares would have been worth in 2019. And that will give us a great idea. I think most likely I will do a significant purchase into Cineworld after the dilution announcement. I'm fairly confident on that. And I haven't sold any of my shares. I'm still bag holding. Because I think that where the price of my shares are now, Cineworld will certainly go up. Or they'll go to zero. But I don't think that's likely, so I'm still holding the shares. What's your take on the results this morning? So I have just started to look at the results, but I would have moved the earth to look at them this morning had I felt like they were going to impact the stock, and I just knew that they weren't going to change the price that much. The biggest thing was that presentation that we just read through that I got through email. When will Robinhood open up for purchase? I don't buy on Robinhood, and Robinhood seem to do a lot of put and call options and stuff like that. That's something that I've been learning a bit about, and I'm mildly interested in, but it's a bit close to gambling for me. But I assume that you can just buy and hold shares on Robinhood. I've not used the platform. There's plenty of platforms that don't hold stocks that I like to buy. That's why I have to have several platforms. I've got Revolut, Freetrade, eToro, and I'm getting Trading 212, and I'm probably going to do a video about why I use different platforms and what I like about them. But the reason I have so many is because I so often can't find them on one, and so I have to go to another. Robinhood being such an American-based company, and Americans perhaps not getting the fact that the owner of their Regal Cinema is Cineworld, just don't look up the right company when they're searching on Robinhood. So they don't get that much trading of Cineworld, and so it doesn't become worth holding the Cineworld shares just for the people on your platform to trade with it. So I think it's all to do with how well Americans understand what Cineworld is. And so we need to keep making YouTube videos, keep sharing this, get it on Wall Street Bets. And yeah, like the news is going to start it's going to become more and more clear from now on, I think, how resilient Cineworld is and how good of a relationship they have with their creditors. I think they have a good relationship. I don't think they could have gotten this much credit without having a good relationship with creditors. And I think creditors are actually fairly confident in Cineworld also. They're probably the biggest bulls of all of us, but they won't miss an opportunity to steal a bit of equity of the company. So we'll have to see what happens, and we'll just react to whatever the news is. But at the minute, nothing has changed my feelings towards Cineworld. I'm very confident and bullish on cinema. Absolutely, cinema is the future. It's the highest margin business out there. And now that COVID is in the rearview mirror, all these cinemas are going to start raking in cash, and we've got some amazing films ahead of us to kick that off. So thank you guys for joining me for another week. I hope I didn't ramble too much, and if you've got any more questions, please leave them to me on the bottom of the YouTube video, and